So here I am now going into my senior year in college, and I have 2 more semesters. And so the last thing that I want to focus on is a relationship. So that summer, I had the opportunity to serve as an orientation leader. And if you don't know, typically orientation leaders have been they went through some type of interview process and were selected by a panel. And basically, they spend the entire spring semester pretty much going through training and just learning more about the university and how to properly educate prospective students and their families. And so you do a lot of tours, and you go across campus and meet with different departments, so that way you know a little bit more about the university. And it's not really a selling thing, because you're not having to sell it, because these students have already chosen to come to university, but you definitely want to be knowledgeable about the university that you attend, because you just never know what a student or a parent may ask you. So that summer I was serving as an orientation leader, and at UNA they're called store counselors, and I was so excited. It was like probably the highlight of my college career, simply because it just allowed me to really show my personality, but also be very helpful and educate others. But then also be able to talk about how I ended up at the university and what I've loved most about my journey, and just how much I've grown as an individual, but also as a leader. Talk about involvement. And so it's a wonderful opportunity if you're interested in applying, or if you think that you want your son or daughter to do something that's unique, that would help them get more acclimated to campus. Tell them to look out and apply to be an orientation leader. But I was serving that summer as an orientation leader, and so basically you're going to help the incoming students pretty much at the end of the day register for classes. So here it is. I've just come out of a breakup, so it's about 3 weeks later, and this is the very last session, which was somewhat I remember being kind of excited, because it pretty much it does take over your summer, so you don't really have like free reign that summer, because most of the time you're having about 2 orientation sessions each week. And so there I was serving. It's the last one. I was always working at the check-in table. Maybe it's my personality, maybe it was my smile, but that was where I would be in the morning time. So I did see every student coming into each session, but as far as like making eye contact and like creating conversation was not something that I was doing. I'm more so handing them their name tag and telling them to keep the line moving forward, and that they'll receive instructions at the next station. So this young man who says that he remembers seeing me, and that he told the young man in front of him, who was going to be his roommate, he was like, "That's going to be my next girlfriend," and his roommate laughed at him. So I don't remember seeing him coming through the line, but I didn't remember really seeing anybody come through the line. But understand again, I said that I was going into my senior year, and this young man, if he's coming to orientation at the last one, he's an incoming freshman. So just bear with me here. So anyways, we go through, we're spending the day, and this young man, that night we would have like these parties, well, not really parties, but we would basically have an opportunity for them to like play board games, or they could come and dance. We would have a DJ. So we just had different stations where they could go at night, because it's a 2-day event typically. And so here we are, at this little party. I call it a party, but it was really just like a little disco light in a banquet hall room. And basically, once they leave this station, then we proceed to go over to the residence halls, because they were required to spend the night, and the orientation leaders were also required to spend the night as well. So we spend the night, and basically this was my night to be on duty. And basically, when you're on duty, you pretty much just had to stay up. I feel like the time frame was midnight. It could have been a little sooner, but basically you would just have to pull the door shut, so they could somewhat hang out, and then at midnight everybody had to come in, because they did have an early morning start for the next day. I'm sitting on this sofa, because the sofa gives me visibility to see outside, but it also gives you able to see what's kind of going on in the front lobby area as well. So I'm sitting there and really just waiting on the time to kind of get a little closer to midnight, and that guy pops up on the scene, and he's like, I remember him asking like if anybody was sitting there, and so he sits down and starts having small talk. I'm talking because just talking about day-to-day stuff, like, you know, why did you come here? Like, what has your experience been like? Do you like it? Do you like it? Is it fun? Like, are the parties lit? Stuff like that. So anyways, answering those questions, and then at some point the conversation somewhat shifted, and he started sharing his life story and like how he ended up at the university and just this whole 9 yards, how he was adopted and just all this good stuff. So he had a really, really interesting life story. But again, I'm not looking at him in no type of way because again, I'm about to graduate. He's just getting started. But anyways, somehow, one way or another, this same guy is actually who I ended up dating my senior year in college. And it was really interesting because I think the experience, if you ask both of us, I think it was different because I think for me, I was so like concerned, I think, about what people were saying, even though I hadn't heard anything. I just knew that people were talking because I knew I would be talking if I knew about a senior who was dating an incoming or dating a freshman at this point. But I think if you asked him, his outlook and experience and perspective would be completely different because I think it gave him more access to things and to people, to parties, organizations, just other stuff. And so it was probably unique for the both of us. But he was real chill, real cool, very much so respectful. And it was somewhat refreshing to date someone who really just wanted to date you, and just be present in those moments. And again, for him, you know, it wasn't like, again, it took me a while to get over, like, okay, he's younger, like, much younger. But once I got over it, like, once it no longer bothered me, and I was no longer, I think, ashamed of it, great communication, great relationship, hang out, we would end up at the same parties, like, see each other, and, like, we didn't have to be up, like, on each other. It was just chill, real chill, which is what I think I wanted my last year to be anyways, which was just chill, laid back, drama-free. I mean, the goal was to be boyfriend-free, but that part didn't work out. So everything was going really well. Now, again, he was incoming freshman, so there were a lot of things that he didn't know, right? And so, for any time that you're, you know, dating someone, the goal, hopefully, is that the two of you're challenging each other, but you're also pushing each other to become, right, a better individual, which I think what we were doing. But I think for me, I ended up felt like I was taking on a project, and he wasn't a project. Like, he wasn't a rebound. He was someone that I think for me, like, I genuinely cared about, and so I started investing time, investing resources, investing effort, investing money, just doing a lot of investing because I wanted the relationship to be something that it was actually never going to be. So that's the beginning. Gave you a little bit of the middle. The breakup was simply he cheated, and I shouldn't have been shocked or caught off guard or surprised. He was young, he was nice looking, and he was a charmer. And so the same thing that eventually attracted me to him, of course, was going to attract other females to him. And because he was so young, he had not developed the maturity needed for a committed relationship. And so the breakup was not pretty. It was actually quite ugly, and I was so upset. I think more so with myself. And here's the thing: I always say that, like, I had pretty much in caught him in a lie. And I honestly think, had he just owned up to the truth, I would still be dating him. But he didn't. He lied, so he had to get cut. So as a result of that taking place, that was the end. And so it really was me trying to figure out, okay, what in the world is going on? How in the world have I gotten to this place? And what am I going to do now? Because I think when you're, about to graduate from college, you want to have things lined up. And I did not have anything lined up. And so in my mind, this is someone I was going to be dating for a longer period, and so I did not have a plan B in place, which is really not like me. All through college, I always had multiple plans. So if one plan didn't work, that was okay. I would just pick up the next plan. And it's funny now because that system doesn't work for me as an adult, right? Because I recognize that, like, God is in full control of my life in every area of my life, including relationships and career. But in college, right, I just felt like I was in control of that, and so I always had, like, options. So I would have plan A, plan B, plan C, maybe even a plan D, just in case. And so literally I graduated in, actually, I was about to say I graduated in May. I actually walked in May, completed my courses that summer, and felt like this is someone that I was going to be dating, and then broke up in December of that year, and I had no plan B. And so there it was, starting off the new year and not really having, not really knowing what was next for me. And so that kind of messed with me, I think, mentally, because people would look at me and people would assume that I had it all together. And so a lot of times I would continue, in that facade that I did, and I really didn't. And so I had no clue what was next for me, what was going to happen. But it was at that moment that I decided I needed to stop dating. I needed to take a break from dating and just figure out, like, who am I? What is it that I'm passionate about? What is it that, what inspires me? And what is it that I can see myself doing forever, regardless of the pay, and actually walk away being very content with my portion. And so that's really what started the whole single journey. And that, y'all, was almost 6 years ago. It'll be 6 years that I've been single since, it'll be 6 years in December of this year that I've been single. But that relationship is kind of what started it, because I think at that point, it wasn't that I realized that I had lost myself. I don't think that was the case. I really think at that point I realized that I had lost my focus. And I was no longer focused on me or what I wanted to do or who I wanted to be. I was really wanting to meet Bae, because, when you're growing up, you create these timelines, and so you just think that by a certain age you're going to be married. And so I felt as if though, if that was the case, I needed to, like, meet him, get to know him, have history with him, because for me, I wanted to have this just ideal love story. And so to meet someone in college and kind of go through life, adult life, with them, and then get married was going to be my last opportunity, since I wasn't going to be able to hold on to that high school sweetheart love story. But anywho, the breakup happens, and now I'm like left empty-handed, really trying to figure out, okay, I didn't plan on us breaking up, so now I don't know what's next for me. I had already graduated, but I wasn't applying for any jobs, or really any internship opportunities, because I was just so committed to the relationship, so much so that I was willing to just stick around. So at that time, I was actually working two jobs. So I had an internship that I would work during the daytime, and then I would also, at night, I would go and work at Victoria's Secret. And so was very happy in doing that, and that provided me with opportunities to live the life that I wanted to live. So I could get my hair done every 2 weeks, nail done every 2 weeks. Anything that I wanted to purchase, buy, I could do so because I was working those two jobs. And so when the relationship ended, I was like, this is not the life that I want for myself. I don't want to have to work two jobs forever because it's tiring, it's exhausting. And so it was at that point that I realized I needed to take a break from dating simply so that I could regain my focus. Now, that I think it was going to take 6 years? No. But I think in those 6 years, I've grown so much. I've had so many opportunities be afforded to me, and I've been able to take advantage of those simply because I haven't had the whole relationship piece hold me back. So I think sometimes, or most of the time when we're dating someone, we try to mold our life and our career to match theirs. And so because I haven't had that distraction present itself, then it has not been an issue. If I apply for a job, an interview, and decide that this is the opportunity that I need to take, I've been able to take it and own it and move. Just pack up my bags and go. And so that's been nice. And I think my career journey has been so interesting because I'm doing something that I never thought I would be doing. I love what I do. I'm very passionate about what I do. Working in higher ed is a very, I think, unique opportunity because you really are able to inspire, impact the students that you work with. I had been working in this field for so long. It's been about 5 years now, and I started out with the enrollment management side of things, where I was helping recruit students to the university. So I had worked at 3 different universities as a recruiter. I felt like I was going to really retire as a professional recruiter. But then a shift happened with this last opportunity, and now I work in student life. And so I'm going to talk in my next video about the career highs and lows, and just talk about my journey and how, just really share where I started and like where I am now, and just how I think the journey just hasn't been as peachy as it may have looked on social media. I think, we have a way of just making the journey, or making the ending look like that's what the process looked like, and that's not typically not the case. But yeah, so sometimes when ships sink, I think you have to just be at peace with letting go. And I think that it's really okay not to have a backup plan, because it gives God all the room to come in and to point you in the right direction, to get you back on track. And that's simply what I needed. And so here I am. I'm 28 years old. I've been single, like I said, for almost 6 years. And that part, it doesn't, I don't think it bothers me, affects me, or phases me. I think that my family, sometimes they're concerned. I think people, when they hear it, they're sometimes concerned. This past Friday, we had some of my classmates from high school got together and had a class reunion dinner. And this guy was like, oh, he's like, so you and your husband live in Birmingham? And I was like, no, just me. Like, it's just me. I live in Birmingham. And so I think sometimes people are thrown off by it because they're like, well, like, what are you waiting on? There are people, I think, who choose to be single. And 6 years ago, that person was me. I don't think I'm no longer choosing. I think because I've been single for so long, I think the standards that I have are just something that I'm not willing to waver on. And so I don't expect anyone to be perfect because I'm not perfect, but I don't want to settle. because I have been single for so long, and so I'm very in tune with who I am, right? Like, I know what makes me happy, I know what makes me sad, what can make me tick, what annoys me, and I think just with relationships in general, trust is so big to me. You'll probably hear me talk a lot about trust within the friendship series, but trust is big. It takes me a while to trust someone in relationships or friendships, but once I do, I do. And so when someone breaks the trust, I know that I can simply forgive you and really forget about the incident itself. But I think when a person shows you who they are, they show you their character, they show you how they really feel about you. Because anyone who will cheat on you, right? They're they're willing to lose you. The relationship doesn't mean as much to them, and so I just knew that I couldn't move forward with that. And so a lot of times when ships sink, we want to just stay on board. We want to stay with the other person. Like I said, I think had he told the truth, I may wouldn't have even made a big deal about it because I was so invested, remember, in the relationship. But that is not always healthy. Um, if you're going to be invested into something like a relationship, then you want to make sure that the relationship is also like pouring back into you that which you're pouring into it. Because if you're the only one who's doing all the pouring, eventually your pitcher is going to run out, and there's going to be nothing left on your end to pour, right? And so you don't want to take on too many projects in a sense. Like you don't want to take on any projects. It's okay, I think, to grow with people and to challenge people and to admire people's growth and be a part of that process. But you just don't want to get to the point where you have literally taken on a project and you've basically molded and basically made something look so good that they no longer saw the benefit in the relationship or in you as a person. So you want to value yourself and know that just because the ship sinks, like it doesn't mean that it's the end all be all for you. It could just be an opportunity to point you back in the right direction, and that is what that ship sinking did for me.